So this is a conversation from yesterday that was posted onto danslescoulisses.com. I'll leave a link in the description to this article published by Maxime Truman, how the Montreal Canadiens are reportedly shopping for a robust forward to compete in their bottom six. Now, this article uses another article published by Marco D'Amico on rg.org that goes over how the Montreal Canadiens are going to bank on youth to fill injury holes. This means that they're not going to go out there and make a trade for Trevor Zegras to replace Patrik Laine. It means they're going to rely on guys like Oliver Kapanen and Josh Waugh to potentially step in and fill roster spots. But this is where Truman goes out there and responds, saying this. According to other information, Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton are active and evaluating some options to move, but D'Amico's information is not wrong. The Montreal Canadiens would not be shopping for a top six winger to complete one of the first two lines. They would be looking instead for a solid winger to play on the fourth line. So maybe like an extra rough, tough, knock-em-over kind of guy? George Laraque dropped a little scoop yesterday during his segment on the Laraque and Gonzalez show. According to Georges, Martin St. Louis realized that his team was being pushed around too much since the beginning of the preseason schedule, and he apparently told the players, notably Arber Xhekaj, that he approved of what Xhekaj had done to defend his team during the last two games. It's a 180-degree turn. And furthermore, this article says that according to information, the Canadiens management would like to get their hands on a robust and physical player to play on their fourth line. We are aware that Michael Pezzetta cannot do the job alone up front, and that Arber Xhekaj, when he sits in the penalty box or is chased from the game, he puts his team in trouble, only with 5 defenders. And Martin St. Louis doesn't like dressing 11 attackers and 7 defenders. So with this in mind, assuming all this information is 100% correct, I'm not saying it is, we're just using it for an idea here, conversation if you will. If the Montreal Canadiens wanted to add on to their list of robust players, Michael Pezzetta, you've got Arber Xhekaj, you do have some other guys that are a little bit further down there in the pipeline. Luke Tuch, Florian Xhekaj, they definitely do exist, but I don't think anybody's projecting them to be full-time Canadiens this season. So if there is yet another name the Habs would want to add on via a trade or something in order to add some extra bottom six stability, who knows whom that could be. This was posted onto Twitter, and then you actually had Habs on Reddit going out there with an idea. I like this idea a lot because technically, if the Canadiens were to do this, they'd be going after a top goal scorer. Habs on Reddit said this: if Kent Hughes is really looking for another tough physical player on the trade market, Mathieu Olivier from Columbus might be an interesting addition to the Habs. And this is a name that I wanted to dive into right here, Mathieu Olivier, because if you dive into his numbers, what are you talking about goal scorer, Lego? Shut up. No, I'm not talking about what you'll see right away on Elite Prospects. He actually only had 5 goals in 54 games played this most recent season with the Blue Jackets. That was his career high in NHL goals in a season. He had that twice. Last year he had 12 points, the other year he had 15 points, both with Columbus. But if you head over to the NHL preseason stats, let's go back over onto CBS Sports here, and you go over to goals. Hey, guess what? Mathieu Olivier is literally tied for 3rd overall in the NHL in goals in the preseason. Now, I get it. It's the preseason. These guys will never really produce this much in the regular season. And if you take a look at the guys that are at the top, I mean, Logan Stankoven, Byfield, Robertson, Kevin Labanc, Fantilli, Mathieu Olivier, these guys are not bad players. But part of what makes the preseason is you will have these lower depth pieces trying to make a name for themselves and trying to establish that they belong on their NHL teams. Mathieu Olivier is doing everything he can to prove, yeah, I belong on this Blue Jackets team, and I maybe even deserve to get pushed up in the lineup because I can score so many goals. That's what the preseason is for. You're not going to have the top players all over the league just flexing their muscles and being their best selves in the preseason. And also, not all these best players play all the games, so getting a lot of games means that you're kind of in a capacity that the team wants to see you more, and they want to give you an extended tryout, so that's kind of what you're seeing here. Not to say that Kevin Labanc or Byfield or anybody is bad, but Come on. Mathieu Olivier technically is a top goal scorer in the NHL right now, but if he scores 4 goals in 5 games in the regular season, then hey, I'm gonna eat my hat. That'd be crazy. However, Mathieu Olivier has a lot of assets to his game rather than just that preseason goal-scoring ability. Take a look at the profile here. He is 27 years old, 6'2", 209, right-handed guy, and he can play on both wings, signed till the end of this upcoming season, making $1.1 million a year. He's cheap, his contract is short, and if you take a look at what he was able to accomplish last year, Mathieu Olivier was one of the more physical, rough, tough, and bang-em-body kind of guys. Last year, he had 163 hits in 54 games. He was averaging 3 hits a game. And even though he wouldn't really shoot the puck or score many points, he would get out there in a physical role with his solid frame and his work ethic. This is one of the guys that if you wanted to say would belong on the Montreal Canadiens roster, I wouldn't necessarily disagree. Imagine having Pezzetta and Olivier on the same line. That's like the Bash Bros line. And then if they have Arbor Xhekaj also on the ice as well, there's going to be nobody that wants to mess with these dudes. The question is, though, whether or not the Blue Jackets would be interested in trading this kind of a name away. We'd already talked a few times about Montreal players that they could send over to Columbus to help them out in their salary cap situation. The unfortunate departures of a lot of money from this offseason had really put the Blue Jackets in a tough spot. Obviously, the trade of Patrik Laine and then the terrible tragedy that was the Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Gaudreau incident removed a lot of dollars from the Blue Jackets cap situation, and so they're technically under the cap. If the Canadiens could send away some big money contract, a guy who's not really too great, and then get a guy like Mathieu Olivier in exchange, maybe that's something the Canadiens are interested in, and maybe that's something that the Blue Jackets would see value in doing to help themselves out. Whether or not they see Olivier as a potential trade chip, though, that remains to be seen, considering the fact that I think Olivier plays the right style of game that Columbus really needs in their bottom of the lineup. Replacing him with a guy that doesn't really have the same connection or heart with the team right now, I don't know if that would be all too helpful for them, but at the same time, it's not like the Blue Jackets are going to be super competitive in 2024, 2025 anyway, so you could debate whether or not that actually would make sense for them. Make some sort of a trade, get a contract, and get over the salary cap minimum. Who really knows? If it's not Olivier, though, there are a few other names that are talked about here on social media. A lot of Canadiens fans are talking about Tanner Jeannot as a potential pickup, but I do think that his profile is a lot bigger and better, that he would not cost, let's say, a throwaway big money contract. He'd cost a lot of extra assets, and I think he is a lot more valuable than Olivier. Although they can play similar roles, I definitely think if you're talking strictly fourth line guy, extra power forward, big-bodied, hard-nosed kind of guy, it wouldn't really be too different if you had Jeannot versus Olivier, but that's really just me trying to make the cheaper, less expensive guy seem like a valuable ad. But I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this idea of the Canadiens going after some sort of a brute to play in the bottom of their lineup. Is Mathieu Olivier the guy that you think should be worth a shot? Do you think there's another name out there that would make sense? A lot of guys have motors and a lot of guys can hit, but guys who can do both are pretty valuable, especially in the bottom of a lineup of a team that gets pushed around like Montreal a lot. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you are a Blue Jackets fan, what are your thoughts on the idea of Olivier getting traded to the Canadiens? Do you think it's a good thing? Do you think it's not? If you're a Habs fan, what do you think about this addition? If you're a Blue Jackets fan, what would you want in exchange for Olivier to get this done? Maybe not like a bad contract by itself, like just throwing a name out there, Brendan Gallagher. Okay, it's not going to be Gallagher 1-for-1. Maybe Gallagher and like a second or something. Gallagher and some extra value to make it worth your while if you are Columbus. But either way, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this trade idea. Article will be linked in the description from danslescoulisses.com if you want to go ahead and read the extra thoughts about it yourself. The responsible gambling article is also there too. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.